Welcome to Texas Honda Channel. God bless each and every one of you. If you're new here, please consider clicking the subscribe button, hit that like button, and turn the bell icon on to get notified of every upload. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to do the slider and riser for the RSX. This method works the same for the EM2 and the EP3s. This is a very crucial piece for your suspension, especially if you're upgraded. Now, if you have an all-factory system, this won't help you very much, except for the slider part. That is something I recommend doing just because it helps the overall feeling in the steering and it's more responsive and heavy duty. So we're gonna go ahead and get into it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Okay, so first things first, I'm gonna show you the parts. Right here is the riser. Now this riser is from DC5 Creations. I'll link it in the description. Not sponsored, but this is a very good part, made in the USA. Very nice quality all the way through. So this piece right here will basically straighten out the tie rod ends. So I'm going to show you that real quick. You can see this tie rod is kind of up at an angle where it should be nice and straight. Now that happens when you put aftermarket suspension on. If it was the factory suspension, that wouldn't be at an angle. So in order to remedy this, DC5 Creations came up with this riser. So this bolts right where the factory inner tie rods bolt in, and it actually sits up higher, which ends up straightening out the tie rods. So that'll be that piece. Now, if you just have a factory system and you just want it to feel better in the steering and stop wandering all over the road, PCI and DC5 Creations both make a really good slider. Now this piece goes in behind this, basically just bolts like that with I believe 17mm bolts right here, and this piece will go back there and it'll slide. I highly recommend using some of the red multi-purpose grease. That stuff's high temp and it works really well. We're gonna actually grease this thing up before installing it, so that way it slides nice and easy. So I got the one from PCI because DC5 Creations was out of stock and I just needed to get this done before the turbo setup goes in. So this right here is a aluminum piece, and the factory piece is actually a rubber, and with the heat of the turbo going right by that, it's not going to help matters. It's already kind of all over the road once there was power to it. When I had the supercharger on here, this thing, when the boost would hit, which was instant, the thing would wander all over the road, and everyone thinks it's because it's non-LSD or because whatever. The problem is that piece in there, it's very, very loose. All right, so that piece right there, I'm barely moving the steering wheel and you can see it's wiggling back and forth. That has a lot of play. It's a lot of slop in the steering wheel, and that will go away once we install the PCI aluminum slider. All right, so before I get started with all that, I will need to move the catch can, and some of these hoses and wires are going to be in the way for when the turbo goes in. You can't really see where I'm working down there, so I am going to move some of that before getting started. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll get started with how to remove that stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Okay, I went ahead and got a lot of that stuff out of the way, and there's a line right here, this coolant line, and I moved it right to there on this hard pipe, the hard water pipe. That line did run into this piece, which I don't need this anymore, so I just have it looped there, which definitely decluttered a little bit. I will have to get a tuck harness eventually, but for now we're going to actually remove this piece of plastic that's on here and then tuck the harness out of the way, because it will be in the way once the turbo's there. Okay, moving down to the inner tie rod, I have a 1 1/8 wrench here sitting on there, and you can see exactly how much movement there is with that plastic factory OEM slider in there. So this thing has almost 200,000 miles, so this is kind of normal. When we take that out and put the aluminum in, there won't be near as much play, which will actually keep this on the road a lot better, especially when the power comes in. Now, before we start taking this off, you can see there's these washer looking things that are bent over. We're going to hammer those straight up and down, so that way when we go to unscrew it, it unscrews perfectly fine. So I'm going to do that using a sledgehammer, and a pry bar, straighten those, we'll get these inner tie rods out. Okay, if you don't have the right wrench for this, you can use an 8-inch adjustable wrench, and it does fit on there, and then you can go ahead and loosen it. Okay, as you loosen this, you will see that it spins pretty freely, and it's the normal lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. That's how you do it on these. And the best way to do it is have the car jacked up off the ground on jack stands, so that way it can actually push out. If it's on the ground and you're trying to do this, it won't be very easy to do because it's got to push the wheels out. And once you get this one unscrewed, we can move to the next one. Make sure not to lose this piece because we're going to need it to reinstall. Now, once you got that off, we'll go ahead and undo both of these 17mm bolts, and this piece will come off. All right, so here is a side-by-side comparison of the two of them. This is exactly how it came off, just like that. And then we've got this one over here. You can see quite a bit different. It goes up at an angle, and the inner tie rods just tighten into them. So I will be using Loctite when I put the inner tie rods in here, just to make sure that it doesn't back out. This is aluminum, as to where this is actually a steel of some sorts, heavier duty. So just to ensure that this doesn't have a problem, we're just going to use some Loctite in there. But yeah, now we can get the slider out, which this will replace that. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to do that. Okay, at this particular spot right here in the rubber, we're actually going to make a slit in it. This seems to be the most common way people do this. Basically just make a little slit so we can pull out the inside piece. Pull this piece out that's in here. Now these little pieces like to fall out, but this is the plastic slider. So with this particular kit, we don't need to keep these pieces of metal, but some kits require it. But yeah, it's plastic and very brittle, so it's a good thing we're replacing it. All right, here are both sliders side by side. This is the factory one. This is the aftermarket aluminum one. This one will go in there just like this, as if you're looking at it just like that. This one goes in the same exact way. Now this one doesn't look terrible, but it does have play, and it is plastic, and the heat from the turbo will definitely affect it more. So it's a great time to do it before turboing, but it's really not too hard to do. We're gonna go ahead and grease this one up with this red grease over here, multi-vehicle Valvoline grease. Grease the whole thing up and then slide it in there, back in that little slit, and then we'll reassemble it the same way we took it apart. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this nice and lubed up, get it in there. This would be a good time to take some in your gloves here and just put it all inside that rack to kind of lube it up. It helps a lot. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I hope you guys are enjoying this video. Right now that piece is slid in, we can go ahead and put this back on. Just line it up with the holes and tighten it back down. And then we can put the inner tie rod ends back on. right, everything is back together, tightened down, torqued down, and ready to go. Okay, this is shaking the steering wheel left to right, and I don't feel that sloppy play that I felt before. The wheels are actually moving this time, so that is awesome. All right, it's all back together except for the one piece I forgot. Definitely make sure to put this one back on. Basically just goes like this, right over the 17mm nut. It's a backup just in case the bolt does come loose. You want it to be able to catch it so it doesn't get loose and your steering fall apart, which that would be terrible. So that is officially done, and here are the old pieces. So you can see these just fall out. They're very loose in there too, so this thing is definitely pretty worn out. So it's a good thing we replaced it. This one, of course, would be fine to keep in there if it was at factory height without aftermarket suspension. But since I have aftermarket suspension, I needed to upgrade that piece, which did straighten the rod out a little bit. You can see it's a lot more straight than it was before. It was like at a really big angle. So that is a lot more level, which will help for the alignment, which I need to get done soon. I would take it for a test drive, but as you guys can see, I'm still waiting on the intake manifold from Michael, which I will have updates on that. But if you guys didn't already see my Instagram post and the short that I posted here, here's the little video clip of Michael's car running at the track.
Ten 4, 135.99.
So as you could see, that was a low 10-second quarter-mile pass in Michael's setup. That is a stock internal K24A2, just with 14 pounds of boost, and Michael tuned it. It's almost into the 9s, but ended up breaking part of his transmission. So the car is down, but he's going to get the transmission mount welded back up because it actually ripped part of the transmission out. But he's going to get all that fixed and then take it back to the track. Once he gets Jackspania Racing's center feed intake manifold, which I sent to him, he already got it. He's going to be getting it installed soon and then sending me his Skunk 2 Ultra so I can get that on here. But yeah, we definitely have more stuff coming. Jackspania's got some package sending to me with stuff in it for the turbo build. We've got a lot of stuff definitely coming for sure. So you'll definitely want to stay tuned. If you haven't, please turn the bell icon on to get notified of every upload, and make sure you're subscribed because YouTube has been unsubscribing people from both of my channels. Even people have been messaging me saying, hey, I don't know what happened, but I've been unsubscribed, but I resubscribed. So just make sure you're still subscribed. It helps a lot. And yeah, we'll have more stuff coming for sure. But that is basically it for this video. I hope it helped someone with the steering thing, whether they have an EP3, an EM2, or an RSX. This is a definite must-do mod. Even if there's no issues with your steering whatsoever, at least the aluminum slider, which I'll link in the description, both DC5 creations and PCI's. PCI's was a little bit cheaper, but DC5 would match the riser. So I'm going to go ahead and get off here, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, God bless, stay safe, stay awesome.